I've had my fair share of relationship cock-ups, but I've also had, over the last 7 years, quite a lot of breakthroughs thanks to Taoist philosophy from ancient China. It's really helped me. Today, I invite you to join me for a walk, and I'm going to share 5 principles from Taoist philosophy that have helped me with my relationships. I'll share some of my embarrassing stories, as well as how you can make this ancient wisdom actionable so it can help you. Let's go. What is the most important relationship in your life? Family, friends, parrot? Well, I would argue that the most important relationship in our lives is ourselves. We've got to put up with ourselves from birth to death, for richer or for poorer. And our relationship with ourselves is basically the source of most of our pain and problems in our relationships. I started my whole adventure into Taoism confused and anxious, not knowing what I was doing with my life. And I had a character dominating my headspace who I personified as the underminer, the little voice in my head that brought me down and gave me pain, saying, George, you don't have enough friends and you're still single. You must be flawed goods. You're anxious now. You are weak for being anxious. Does any of that resonate? If so, yeah, that's called being human. We have an inner critic and we can be really harsh to ourselves, and we can put loads of conditions on what we need before we give ourselves love and happiness and peace. We can tell ourselves, I'll only become beautiful enough to find a partner when I lose weight, or I'll only be good enough to be in relationship when I get the pay rise. And yeah, getting straight into the deep end with the first idea, but if we feel that we're not enough just as we are, then we may self-sabotage, get in relationships that aren't good for us because we feel actually we don't deserve a stable and kind, loving relationship, because that's not the relationship we give to ourselves. Thankfully, the Taoists have some ideas that can help us. And this is the Tao Te Ching, the foundational text of Taoism. And in chapter 44, Lao Tzu, the author, writes, "Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, true flourishing is yours." So the Taoists, they invite us to celebrate exactly where we are, including all of the things that we don't like about ourselves, the warts and the reactivity and the anger and all of the stuff that maybe we would want to change, but to meet ourselves with kindness exactly where we are. And a story from my own life, I'm still single and open to connecting, and I have been feeling like, oh, I need to be funnier and more confident, and then I'll be able to find this person that inspires me. And I caught these conditions I was telling myself that I would need to fulfill if I were to be lovable and enough. And I really invite you to journal on some of the stories that you tell yourself, because often they're not true. And a mantra that supported me with trusting and loving my whole self that I'm enough right now is this mantra: I trust that the person who is right for me will meet me where I am. Yes, we can change and we can grow, but can we invite, in our own relationship with ourselves as well as the people that we might bring into our lives, can we invite the permission for them to meet us where we are? How could you not be enough when you're made up of star stuff? So we've started with that foundation of our own relationship with ourselves. Now let's move on to relationships with other people. And here's a big idea number 2 from Taoism that has literally transformed how I see everyone. Not sure I'm actually allowed on all of these trains, but it's our little secret. All right, I'll read you another chapter and then we can see how we can apply it to our lives. This is chapter 67. And yeah, these are just Chinese characters. I can't read Chinese. I can speak Chinese, but I'm just gonna get my phone out. It looks nice. Don't even need my phone for this one, I know this one. So this is chapter 67 of the Tao Te Ching, and this is something that I read every morning. It's been a beautiful thing to guide my life. In chapter 67, Lao Tzu says, "I have 3 treasures. Use them as compasses to guide your life by. Hold them close. My 3 treasures are compassion, humility, moderation." So meeting others with compassion is idea number 2. What is compassion? What does that mean and how do we do it? Well, maybe let's start with some examples where I haven't been compassionate. So an example of where I haven't been compassionate. Take my parents. Love my parents, they're awesome. But in the times where they have been angry or negative towards me, I would often judge them, which led to me feeling disconnected from them, and then I held resentment and anger in myself. Compassion invites us, instead of judging the actions and the words of other people, is instead to try and connect with their heart. What are they feeling? And what is the deep need that they're trying to meet? Compassion is really powerful, because if we remember to think about what are they feeling and what are their deep needs that they're trying to meet, we remember their humanity. that most of us have gone through some form of trauma. There's societal conditionings as well as bad choices, which means that we act in ways that we wouldn't want to. Compassion is a practice, a skill that we develop with time, where we actively choose to remember and connect with the person's humanity instead of just judging their words and actions. So how do we become more compassionate? Thankfully, it is a skill and a practice. At the end, I want to share a book that's been really helpful for me. But let's get an idea now from another Taoist philosopher. So this little guy is Lao Tzu, who's the author of the Tao Te Ching, the book that we've been reading so far. And this is Zhuangzi, who's the second foundational thinker in Taoism, and he's really fun. And here's an idea from Zhuangzi on how we can do compassion. Again, compassion is a skill. It's where we connect with other people's feelings and their hearts instead of just judging their words and actions. And how do we do that? Because it's hard not to be reactive and to just judge people for not acting in ways that we think they should do. And so it's a practice, and real embodied listening is the wisdom that Zhuangzi gives us. It's that we've really got to be present with the other person, not trying to fix or to attack or to blame, but just start with presence, and then that's the place from which we can understand them better and to speak from a more compassionate place. So Zhuangzi says, true empathy and compassion requires listening with the whole being. The hearing that's only in the ears is one thing, the hearing of the mind is another, but the hearing of the spirit is not limited to any faculty, to the ear or to the mind. Hence it demands emptiness. And when you have that emptiness, your whole being listens. Then there is a direct grasp of what is right there before you that you never heard before with just the ear or just the mind. So applying principle 2 of meeting others and ourselves with compassion, how do we do it? One thing you can start going with is this embodied listening. When you notice yourself thinking, when other people are speaking, come back to your breath. Take a breath, come back to presence, and really just empty yourself and witness them. And then notice for yourself, as I've noticed in myself, how conflict reduces, you understand people better, and people feel better around you because they feel that non-judgmental understanding. In a storm, what are the trees most likely to survive? The big stiff ones or the flexible saplings? Let's build on the 3 treasures that Lao Tzu talked about in the chapter 67. He had 3 treasures: compassion, humility, moderation. Talk about humility and flexibility. It's really important in our relationships to realize that we're not always right and there are other perspectives that are valuable. And I learned this lesson the hard way. When I was 22, my girlfriend at the time expressed to me that she felt I wasn't tending to her needs enough. And I felt she was being demanding and being emotional. And we warred over text because I was so stubborn. It took me ages to realize that she had a different reality to me that needed to be understood. So eventually I cycled to her house and called up to her window. I f***ed up! Yeah, at the age of 23, it took me a really long time to get to the realization that she had a different reality to me that needed to be understood and honored for us to be in connection. So can we in our relationships let go of the need to always be right and to defend our worldview, but instead to aim for connection, which will sometimes require the magic words of, sorry, I was wrong. Or I understand that you had a different experience to me and that wasn't my intention to hurt you, but I understand why you experienced it like that. So can you build your humility and flexibility muscles? Is there an area where you've been stubborn in your relationships, not acknowledging another person's reality? Maybe have a chat and let me know how it goes in the comments. So we're on to idea number 4, and this is probably one of the most challenging teachings in all of Taoism. But like in most of our lives, where the discomfort is often where the growth is. So this is chapter 49. The sage, the wise person, treats those who are kind with kindness. He also treats those who are unkind with kindness, because the truth of his being is kindness. The sage, the wise person, treats those who are good with goodness. He treats also those who are not good with goodness too, because the truth of his being is goodness. So this is a challenging idea that we should meet everyone with kindness and with goodness. And you think, everyone, even those that want to manipulate me and want to do not nice things to me? Well, meeting people with kindness doesn't mean we just roll over and say yes to everything. We can still say no, the nourishing no, thank you but no thank you, expressing our boundaries to keep ourselves safe. But we can do that in a loving and kind way. We can extract ourselves from people that aren't serving us. But for me, this aspiration of meeting everyone that I can with kindness and love and compassion and goodness has been a really powerful teaching for me. And so here are some ways that we can apply it. We can apply this idea to all relationships with ourselves, with our loved ones, maybe we're dating. That relationship with ourselves, again, meeting our shadow aspects, the more challenging aspects of ourselves with kindness and love. And that's the promise of love for our healing. And then our existing relationships is to meet our loved ones, again with kindness, even the aspects that we might not want about them. We can often get caught in the idea of what if, like what if I had a different partner, what if I had different friends? And maybe your wisdom is telling you to move, but often our challenges come from our lack of acceptance and lack of kindness to where our loved ones are at. And so there is a powerful promise to this teaching, is that our relationships strengthen when we meet our loved ones with kindness. We can also apply this idea to dating. And I sometimes notice that if there's a girl that I like, I will then put on my charming mode and say, hello. But this teaching reminds me that I shouldn't pick and choose who to kind of switch on my charm for. But instead, the core of my being is kindness and goodness. And so then I meet everyone with that energy. And then the paradoxical thing is that we are then more likely to connect with that person that we do like and resonate with, because we are kind and good to all people, and that creates an energy that invites others in. Lao Tzu says in the Tao Te Ching that a tree wider than a man's embrace one day started as just a single seed. Growth is a part of nature, and growth is possible for you and I. Change is possible. How you are today doesn't have to be how you always are, how your partner or family is. It's not how they always have to be. And maybe they're not ready to go on this journey that you're exploring of self-development and maybe spirituality. The only person you can change is yourself. And awesome things are possible when we do work on ourselves. You know, like this epic creature that's 200 years old. If you put some work into yourself, maybe going to the bonus thing that I was going to talk about was nonviolent communication, a link in the description for you. It's an awesome book and there are courses. For me, it's been the most powerful tool to help me develop my communication skills and compassionate communication, heart-to-heart relating. And as you begin to transform yourself, be surprised how your relationships begin to transform too. That's been my experience. So there you go, some ancient wisdom applied to our modern lives. Here's another video somewhere if you want to keep exploring Taoism with me. I'd love to know in the comments, what are the sort of ideas that help you with your relationships? Let's inspire each other in the comments. I hope these ideas serve you and your relationships become more peaceful and more harmonious. Have a great day.